Alright, hello good people of YouTube. I've decided to do a channel kind of talking about my progress or lack thereof on speculating on WTI, and I'm really just hoping that it kind of helps me. Sometimes the process of just talking things out and it, at least I guess pretending that somebody's listening is very helpful for me. So and my progress has been very stagnant, so I'm just trying anything to sort of get me over that hump and become more consistently profitable. I was thinking of doing this anyways when I did achieve some of my goals, but progress is very slow. So, you know what? Give it a try. I was inspired by somebody on YouTube talking about how sometimes watching people who have already achieved it can feel inaccessible. And yeah, she was talking about tiny house living and off-grid living and that sort of thing. And I just found that was kind of interesting, and it just inspired me. For whatever reason, I bought it. So here I am trying this out. This is primarily going to be a review. So this is not, I don't make predictions for the future. I don't have that type of time frame. I'm very intraday. I hold between maybe half an hour to 4 or 5 hours. However, rarely it's that long. And I'm trying to get the bulk of the move. So I'm trying to get somewhere between, 50 to 100 plus ticks, ideally. There are some variations where I do take some shorter term setups just because they're good setups. So yeah, maybe one day I'll get more into why I decided to do this and what keeps me going. Yeah, sure, you know what? I'll just mention that a little bit, and I'll have timestamps and all that good stuff. So you don't have to listen to any of this. But I started trading definitely because of the promise of money, I would say. And then it just became a whole different thing. Now, sometimes I definitely worry whether or not it's just I continue it just because of that sunken cost idea, where you've put so much time and energy into something and then you hope that it's going to happen. And you just don't want to give up on it because of all that effort. And so I do sometimes worry about that. I'm like, oh, maybe I should stop doing this and quit. But trading has become so much more to me. It is the amount of, I would say, yes, it would be definitely discipline, but specifically, I used to have issues with depression pretty much the majority of my life, pretty much 2 decades. And human beings have a really easy time of actually rationalizing things and associating things that don't need to be associated. And it really was the objectivity of the goal of trying to learn how to trade and having such an indifferent market as the tool that I'm using to try to understand my feelings and my physiology and everything like that really shed a lot of light. And now I primarily credit trading for helping me through that, and I want to continue with trading because I don't think I would be as disciplined without it. And I like it. I really do. Is it a very tough relationship where sometimes I kind of spent 2 years feeling like I would, open up my screen and I just felt like I was getting ready for a flogging. Like, my level of optimism was pretty much null. So why I went through that, I don't know, but that's just my personality. When I first started, I was very gun-ho. I pretty much consumed as much information as I possibly could, and to the point where I became overwhelmed with it, and I just kind of had to stop. And at some point I heard, and I consumed a lot of information, and there was a lot of it that I don't think I knew how to place yet. Could I parrot it? Absolutely. Could I tell you what, people say about discipline, or having good entries, or waiting for certain things? Absolutely. But that was purely on an intellectual kind of repeating level. Hi, Bambi girl. Hi, Bambi. It was purely on an intellectual level, and I don't think I really understood. And then at some point, I feel like I heard a lot people saying that it just takes a really long time, and because I was going through other things in life, just work-related, moving, breaking up, all that sort of thing, I kind of gave myself permission to just not do too much with trading. I would wake up and be very serious about being at the market at the right time, and taking, trying to learn as much as I can about taking care of myself to become better at the market. But there was a sort of lack of effort to also change things, and I was also learning, because I've never learned anybody else's strategy. I don't know what other people are doing. So everything is just fairly original, for the most part. Like, sometimes I would just hear a podcast and somebody was talking about how they purely pay attention to the after hours low and high, and that's their whole entire strategy, and they make money off of that. And I was like, maybe I should pay attention to those levels, and then I would pay attention to them and see what I could gather from that. So as much as I could be original, I feel like everything that I've come to understand about the market is fairly original, with some podcasts or videos being like, hey, maybe you should pay attention to this every once in a while. So I've had to keep my mind really open, and at times I feel like that was at the consequence of me not having a very specific strategy. And if I had followed some sort of program, if I had the money to buy some sort of system, I think it would have been a much cleaner journey. But here I am, I'm back in a place in my life where, and I feel pretty motivated to put more effort back into trading instead of just kind of appearing. And so here I am. This is the YouTube channel, trying to do something different to get there. And I will mention some of the things that I've also learned this past week. I'm not sure how many times I've said this at this point, but this is a review. I do very rarely make predictions. I'll probably mention a few things, but every day when I come to the market, I try to throw that away, because it's always just ripped me a new one every single time that I've thought I had some great bias or some great idea, on Sunday, and thought that it would work out throughout the whole entire week. So predictions, not my thing, like I mentioned. Okay, so I guess let's get to the review, and I guess I should probably first do an overview. The three things that I've learned this last week, or actually the preface. I suppose I should start with an overview of how I got to some of the lessons that I've learned this week. And I kind of started to get annoyed with myself a little while ago, and I watched this, if you've ever heard of the Huberman Lab podcast, I think he calls it, but it's also a YouTube channel. He does some really great content on neuroscience, and I just like hearing that type of perspective. It really works for me. Just general vague things otherwise really don't do it for me. So I listened, and I will link these below. I listened to his Building Habits and Setting Goals, and I took some ideas from there, and what I started to do was build a sheet, and the idea was to focus on just not doing FOMO trades and not doing hope trades, when you're like holding them past when you should be holding them. So I put together some things, and that process of really like depersonifying, is that really a word? I don't know. Just distancing myself from the market and from how I actually do dollar wise, and just being like, hey, did I do a FOMO trade? Did I not do a FOMO trade? Really felt like it put some things into perspective, and I noticed that I was thinking about my emotions and what I considered to be a FOMO trade and what I didn't. And so things kind of started to become fuzzy, and I realized that I really should pay attention to some of my strategies more so. And so I went back to some of the things that I had written down, reviewed some charts. I have a huge catalog of charts, wrote some things down. And once I did that, I still noticed that there were some things, some emotional aspects that I didn't know where to place or what to do with them. And yeah, so it just detangled all of that. That starting of creating the habit of not putting on FOMO trades really detangled some of my emotions from things, from what trades I wanted to put on, which ones I didn't, what was triggering and what wasn't. And so come this last week, what really ended up happening was I refined the FOMO process. So I'll show you on Monday what the trade was and the situation and context. And that really showed me that I just have to put together another sheet. And I like handwriting things. So I print out these sheets, and now it just forces me to write down all of the criteria about the market that I look for, and just write it down and have it in front of me so I know for sure that I look at all those points of data instead of missing something, which is what I did on Monday. Then come Thursday, I felt like I had this sort of clarity of I have to put on all of the trades. I can't pick and choose which trades I do and I don't put on. But oh my God, and it felt at the time that I kind of started to, nod my head and go, oh yeah, I definitely should do that. And then come Friday, I do this little like gratefulness ritual beforehand. So I look at the charts beforehand, and then I do this ritual and just kind of get into a meditative state and just chill out about things, and then think about the market, set my plans and my goals in that state. And that has been really helpful. And I noticed that as soon as I said to myself, put on all the trades, my brain freaking lost it. It was so triggering. That emotion just felt like it completely overwhelmed me. So I know for sure there's something going on with that. And I definitely need to deal with that. But I guess I will get to that later. Now let's actually get to the charts. Sorry for making you wait. Alright, so I'm actually going to go through my catalog of charts. I like to keep records, and so this is better, especially because the contract changed on Thursday. The volume finally went to the April contract. So yeah, this is just easier for me. I don't know how useful it's going to be, doing this. I've never done this before, but here we go. So, okay, Monday, yeah, the thing that really got me on Monday was... Oh, I didn't get my 4-hour chart in here. All right. Okay. So this situation, this blue line shows where the market was at this point. Now, I was a little ambivalent at first because it had made this high overnight and then clearly sold off. But you had a little support down here. And it was kind of nowhere. And the issue I find with nowhere trades, where they're not really at a specific support, they're not being supported by a line. So for instance, this pink up channel or any other lines, is that they kind of can be a free-for-all. At the same time, you can get a good move, but you just, it's hard sometimes to choose. So where my head was at was looking at this and thinking, you know what? Like, it's already in this -1 sigma of VWAP. So the pink line is VWAP, and this peachy area is the sigma -1. And it hasn't gone over the 50 SMA, which is this blue line. That's usually an indication, especially with having such clear defined top and then it coming down. I was thinking that it was going to go down, and I think normally that would be a good scenario. However, what I didn't realize and what I just didn't really pay attention to was the fact that it was almost a $3 day move. And then when I went back to it and looked at it, I was like, oh, like if that's a $3 day move and there's no support and it's not really interacting with anything, there's really no reason for it to continue down based off past experience. But the problem was, I realized that after I had put in a short. So I had a short somewhere here with my stop above this purple line, which is the previous high. And I didn't realize that till like right about here. So right where it was starting to interact with the 50 SMA line. And that made me very uncomfortable, that I had missed something, and I got very flustered, and I was like, oh my god, I have to get out of this. I don't know and then I felt like I couldn't think clearly. So my big thing for Monday was really, that's when I decided to put together the sheet that had all the information that I would normally look at, and so I could write it down and tick it off, because I didn't want to put myself into that scenario again. So yeah, that was a pretty clear-cut lesson, very easy to implement. I just put together something, printed it out, and yeah, it works for me. Okay, so then Tuesday, let's go back to Tuesday. Oh, this was a fun day. Tuesday was a really good day. That was a great setup, but this is where I started to get, or this is one of the reasons I get angry at myself. Of course, hindsight is 20/20, and I really shouldn't say, but it really was a good setup, and I really wanted to go short. So here you have that double top situation, and it's a little above this up channel, but it's not really paying attention to that channel anymore. And you have the 50 SMA above, and you also have the previous high right above it. And so it was just another one of those scenarios where it's kind of in the middle of nothing. There really isn't that support, because that pink line at some point just really doesn't matter anymore. And usually once it creates this new channel here, that's usually when the former line doesn't make as much of a difference. And so I was looking at it, and I just felt like I kind of knew, but at the same time I was like, you know what if it comes back up and makes a sort of head and shoulders? The market can do anything. Like, it's very frustrating sometimes, but you know, that's why people can't make money, is because it just can go anywhere. So, and especially with it here on this purple line, like, I should have, and I was going to, however, that gratefulness ritual that I do got in the way of it. And so I really didn't open up my screen again till it was in this area. And at that point, if it's a questionable area, usually, or not usually, there is a possibility that price can bounce on a negative sigma of VWAP. And so I kind of got into it, but I had a pretty strong resolution that it was going to go down. So I still went ahead and put in a short here, and I got out on one at the 50 mark, and then I got out on the second one, I think about here, just a little bit lower. So I was able to make a little bit of profit there, so that's really nice. And then I definitely wasn't sure. But here's the thing about, looking at this 60-minute. So it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, weight-wise. Weight-wise, that's a synesthesia thing. No need to get into that, but just the way that I think about the charts, they feel like weights in my head. So weight-wise, it kind of was just in the middle, and also, already had tested this high here, the previous high. And then it's below the 50 SMA and above the 200 SMA. And I'm just like, man, like that, especially having had done, what was it? Yeah, so it was about a $3 day, $3.50 scenario anyways. And I was like, that is very unlikely to go more. So I was thinking that it would bounce in this area. And then also showing here, if you look at the book map, which I really like to see where the liquidity is, there was a lot of liquidity just sitting there for the whole entire day. So those two things coincided, and I thought about maybe doing a bounce there. That was kind of where I originally thought, and I just didn't have enough balls. I was kind of afraid. And then I think I got in right when it broke above Sigma here again. But I put my profit target way too high. And could it have gone up? Sure. I don't know. But yeah, I put my profit target way too high for that one. So that was just a no-go. But yes, the frustration on the good thing that I did on Tuesday was I felt pretty confident with it here in this area, testing VWAP like this at this previous high in this kind of no man's land under the 50 SMA, that was a good short. So that explanation to myself worked. It was, supposedly you could say the correct explanation. I got in late, and I just wasn't really able to capitalize on all of it. So that was kind of a bummer. Okay, Wednesday. Wednesday was kind of a mess-ish. Let's see here. Okay, so Wednesday, here I wasn't sure. Sometimes when it sits above the 50 SMA, maybe in retrospect I probably should have known. Usually when it sits above the 50 SMA on the 1 hour like that, usually it does mean that it's going to go up. I was kind of weighing in my head, though, the fact that you had this double top already. So to me, especially with this kind of gritty play right on that previous the previous high, to me, I was thinking that it could still go down. But yeah, so when the market opened, I did do a short. I still thought that it was going to go up, but I was going to do a short from the after hours high down to VWAP, and then I wanted to pick it up on VWAP and kind of watch it go up a little bit. I thought it was going to be a lot more spiky, a lot more volatile, but it was very just grindy and kind of seemed like a lack of, it's hard to say a lack of control, but it just seemed like there wasn't enough selling as I thought there would be, and I thought it would just be very spiky. Anyways, so the short, I had to get out with a loss, and then once it bounced on the 50 SMA, I was like, well, I've seen that before. I've seen that type of pattern. If it wants to do that, that's great. And so I followed it up, and then for Top Step, by the way, I'm trying to do Top Step right now. So it's supposed to come, I thought, because like I said, I thought it was going to be more spiky. And so I thought it was going to get to the 150 SMA or 150 extension of the after hours. and just kind of set up there. And at that point, I thought that that would have been a really great short. Obviously, it's set up different, which made me feel very uncomfortable. I'm learning that sometimes what I would call the style, or the way the candlesticks form, the way it gets to some of these levels, can make me really uncomfortable. And so I had to get out of my position because of Top Step, and I was just a little uncomfortable with the whole situation. And I got out for a little bit of a profit here. And then I waited after EIA. I didn't see a need to get in just because I was thinking it was going to be a short, because looking back at this, I thought people would read this as a head and shoulders, and also this double top situation I thought was reason for it to be. I didn't see it going higher than that. In addition, I guess I didn't mention this. In addition, where is it? This huge wedge, I think, is going to come into play in time. Like, it's just going to be the context for future plays. And so I was like, yeah, I really did think that it was going to come back down in this level. I really didn't think it was going to go up that much higher. Based on my previous strategies, I did a short. Like I said, I was uncomfortable because of the way it was looking, but I did a short here, right under the 150 extension, and my stop was a little above the 161.80, and then obviously it hit it. It went up to 95, and then started to come back down. So there was a lot of kind of fighting with myself, like, oh, am I doing the right thing by getting in? But then I looked back at this 60 minute, and I was like, I think that was, that's a high probability trade. So yeah, so once it started to interact with this 94.50, and it wasn't doing too hot, I got in right about here. And I have a regular job, so I had to get there, and I knew that I didn't have that much time, so I was thinking it was going to go down a little bit more. I was thinking to at least the 200 SMA, but I put my targets pretty much above the 100, or the after hours high. I'm not used to talking about all this. Yeah, so and then I just had to get out manually pretty much at this pin. I was just like, I just don't have time to wait to see if it's going to play out. And then obviously some of the RAND news came out, and with the pit closed, it's sometimes you can get a big move. I don't really expect much of it. I can't remember if there was something specific about the. Oh yeah, so once it got up to the 95, obviously some liquidity showed up at the 95 area, and if there isn't enough muster, which given the context that I was talking about, I did think that it was going to come back down. So that kind of not verified it, but it really can help price move down. It's almost like a discouragement if the strength isn't there. Obviously, if the strength from the bulls is there, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so when it shows up like that, especially just kind of right after it gets to that point, it can definitely work in that way. Okay, so Thursday was the day where, yeah, I got pretty pissed at myself. So I guess, yeah, let's start at the 60 minutes. So it's a contentious area. It's under the, and this is when the contract change had happened. So it's under the previous black up channel. It's in between these SMAs. And also I think the SMAs here, yeah, and it's under the 200 SMA on the continuous. So to me, I knew that it was, I was looking at it and I was like, God, that looks like it's nasty. It just doesn't look very good. At the same time, because it was under that 200 SMA on the continuous, I really did think that it was going to come down some more. And once again, I just really need to get better on my, doing this whole gratefulness thing, because it's messing up my timing a little bit. By the time that I had looked at it, it was kind of like right above VWAP, so like I'm not going to get in there. But because I wanted to go short, and generally speaking, a good setup is when you have these kind of jagged peaks and spikes, and it opens up, kind of testing, but clearly not committing to the the +1 sigma VWAP. That's usually a really great place to go short and just, watch kind of rotate in this white area. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily rotate for a long time or anything like that, but yeah, just this rotation down. So, but I just kind of got scared on that one, and both the timing, both knowing that I was going to come in a little bit late, I just didn't do it. And then once it went down to that, because that was a good sitting duck. It really was. I should have just gotten short here, and then it came down. And I think at that point, I was angry at myself for not having taken it. And so my kind of revengeful, I don't know, I wouldn't necessarily call it revengefulness, but then it came down to the -2 sigma. And I don't have all the information because my computer cut out, so it kind of sucked. But there was this kind of consistent liquidity at this area, right underneath it. And generally speaking, because I thought it was going to be jagged, and because, you have this support and weird interaction that you have with the 200 SMA on the 60-minute, seeing it start to consolidate here, that pretty much should have been an automatic long too. And yeah, that would have been an automatic long from this area up to VWAP, but I probably would have been conservative and just taken it to under the 200 SMA, that black line. And so by that time, I had missed both of those trades, and I was like, well, my next idea must be freaking amazing, right? Because my first two today were good, and I sometimes get into this issue. And so I shorted again right here because I thought it was going to do this curling under the SMAs, and just when it does that, when it starts curling, and then it can really tank. With the Russia news, it's a little difficult to imagine that, but then there might have been some traders who are really focused on the Iran news, so I wasn't, I thought that could have been a good play. And so at that point, I did that short. It went under into the SMA, or into the sigmas again, and so I added another contract there, but then I put my stop pretty much right where these pin bars are, and that's really annoying. And then it stopped me out, and then I think I tried another one coming in here. Anyways, it wasn't a good day, obviously, because those were losing trades that I did on Thursday. And I think that's where I mentally made a commitment to myself, where I was talking about, like, I just have to do all the trades. I can't cherry pick them. Obviously, that means that I have to do this ritual a little bit faster, thank everybody, thank everything, be grateful, and all that quicker, so that I can be on the market a little bit faster to be able to capitalize on things. And it just didn't. And I went to work, and I put in my headphones, and I just listened to my music and thought, and I was like, man, I feel very committed. I feel so committed. And then Thursday or Friday came, and Friday, like, that is just, in this bullish context, where it's obviously going up, I think probably better seen here, where it's obviously going up, and then you have a descending wedge like this. I mean, that's fucking gold, pretty much. Obviously, you never know what's going to happen in the market, but that's pretty much gold. And yeah, like I said, I mentioned doing the little gratefulness thing, and I thought about having to do all the trades, and I just freaked out. I mean, it was so triggering. I was like, I can't do this. I'm going to lose too much, because my stops tend to be pretty large. And especially on a day like this where you have a very, very big price range, it's pretty easy to lose a lot. I mean, I would say normally my stops are about 20 to 30 ticks. On a day like this, it should be larger. And so what happened was I decided to, well, because I was... Okay, so because I was afraid, what I did was at this, I put in a sitting long right above the, what was this, 88? Yeah, I put a long, sitting long right above 88. And then, like I said, the emotions were really high that day after that triggering thought. I was like, I can't take all the trades. This is a terrible idea. I decided to only put on one contract and then see how it goes. And then once I put in this pin, or no, I guess here, so after the open, so I put in this pin and I was like, okay, confirmation, I feel a little bit better. So I put in another contract to try it out. And then obviously my average was a lot higher, but my stop was still, I think it was 80, no, it was 78, so 0.78. So it obviously hit it right in this area and then went back up. Now, I might have been really stressed out about it because on Fridays I work a full day, so I really only had an hour before I had to go, and so I obviously can't take all the trades of that day because I have to go to work. So maybe that's what was so triggering. But just having this play out, where it did pretty much exactly what I thought it was going to, well, not exactly. It did what I thought it was going to do in essence, right? It broke through like it should, on this descending wedge. And I was like, this is fucking great. But I was just afraid. I probably put in a stop too close. But even then, I just didn't have the time afterwards to get back in once it got back over the 50 SMA. And the emotions on that one were very hard to deal with. So then I went to Ninja Trader and I did a simulated play. And I did all the trades that I felt like I had pre-planned beforehand and I should have done, but I didn't do for various reasons, as I mentioned. And yeah, I played that all out and I was like, what the fuck? 12 grand that I missed out. And that's with the losses. And so it's difficult to do it off this particular situation this week, because this week has been on fire. Like, it really has brought in some really great setups. But to me, it just confirms that I really just have to do all of the setups, and I really just have to figure out emotionally how to deal with that. I honestly do not know what I need to do to self-soothe or calm myself down to just do them all. I really don't. I don't know. Right now, I really don't know. Well, one thing that I think I will implement next week, in addition to all the write-ups that I do with my FOMO write-up, and also the data points, is I'm only going to do one contract and just see how it is. And I do feel like I've accepted that I might still get stopped out, or not stopped out, but fail this test that I'm doing on Top Step, and just accept that I might just have to pay the $100, which kind of sucks because I really don't have that type of money right now. Like I said, I haven't been anywhere with this trading thing. And also keep in mind that this week has been on fire, and I really can't expect that I'm going to make that type of money, and it's just difficult. So it's hard. But yeah, how to deal with that emotionally, I don't know. I suppose as a reflection, when I first started when I first started trading and I was going through that period where I was taking in as much information as possible, I remember looking at a YouTube video. It was a British documentary type of thing on retail traders, and it just followed a few people around who wanted to make it as a retail trader. And I remember there's this one guy, and he had some money from an accident that he was in, so he was getting money in, so he was supporting himself that way. And he just came to really love the markets, and he loved everything that it did for himself and for him. And it just seemed really inspiring, and you're like, oh yeah, I hope that you're doing really well. And then the interviewer asks him, well, how much money have you made in this past 4 years? And he looks down into his little book, and he looks back up and he says, $10. And I was like, and my fear at that time, that imprinted in my head. And that was my fear, and I feel like I'm playing out my fear right now. So what is it about me that plays out my fear rather than my goals? I don't know. Anyways, okay, so let me do